of this divine grace is the Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Brahmacharya Das Thakur ki jai, Prem se Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Sarvabhauma Bhaktarinda ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktarinda ki jai, Gopinanda all glories to the Son, all glories to the Son, all glories to the Son, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Guru, glories to Shri Guru.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, chapter 1, text 37 now. Shri Shuka Uvacha iti ukta yamatutais vasudevokta karinaha tham pratishuhu prahasyeram mega nirhradaya gira. Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Shukadev Goswami said.
Shri Shukadev Goswami said.
Iti. Thus.
Ukte.
Being addressed. Yamadutaye. By the messengers of Yamaraj. They. Vasudeva. Uktakarinaha. Who are always ready. To execute the orders. Of Lord Vasudeva. Being personal associates. Of Lord Vishnu. Who have obtained. The liberation of Savakya. Tan unto them. Pratyujuhu replied. Prasya smiling. Idam this mega nirhradaya resounding like a rumbling cloud. Gira with voices. Translation. Shukadev Goswami continued. Being thus addressed by the messengers of Yamaraj, the servants of Vasudeva smiled and spoke the following words in voices as deep as the sound of rumbling clouds. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Yamadutas were surprised to see that the Vishnututas, also polite, were hindering the rule of Yamaraj. Similarly, the Vishnututas were also surprised that the Yamatutas, also claiming to be the servants of Yamaraj, the supreme judge of religious principles, were unaware of the principles of religious action. Thus, the Vishnututas smiled, thinking, what is this nonsense they are speaking? If they are actually servants of Yamaraj, they should know that Ajamil is not a suitable candidate for them to carry off. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Patala Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devam Guravani Prachani Nirvishesha Srimati Pashkati Visitana. Shukadev Goswami continued. Being thus addressed by the messengers of Yamaraj, the servants of Vasudeva smiled and spoke the following words in voices as deep as the sound of a rumbling cloud. So here, once again, we can see how important the Bhagavatam is explained by a pure devotee, an authorized acharya, who can reveal the background of the different emotions taking place there. To a normal commentator, even academically spoken, this is not accessible. they would just go after the words and after the technical information, but they don't understand sometimes the background. So therefore they can be grievously mistaken, just simply analyzing the words or something like that. But here we have an explanation why the Vishnudas actually smiled, thinking the Yamatutas being mysteriously out of place, because they should not actually have acted like that. Once again, pointing out the authority they had. In the Vedic times, there is actually no place for personal dueling like that, based on emotional grounds, as it is so popular in Kali Yuga. You think like this, I think like that. You feel like this, I feel like that. You said this, I say like that. This is several Prabhupada said this expression like, in my opinion, or I believe, have no place in a highly elevated exchange or conversation. Prabhupada said this, when you start like this, you can close the whole thing down. It's no use. Who cares what you think? Who cares what you believe? You. Who is you, anyway? When you tell them in Kali Yuga, there's somebody, who is you anyway? Oh, what an insult. Me? Well, I'm the center of the universe. And I think and I believe it's like that. And immediately there's, and there's so many centers of the universe that, it's very difficult to coordinate the whole thing. Impossible. But here, the Vedic system is that you represent a parampara, you represent an authority. Therefore, the information and the level of communication is that my authority said like that. No, my authority said like that. Actually, here, in this conversation, the authority of Yamaraj is placed against the authority of Vishnu. And it is very soon discovered that there is no need of any conflict, because it's the same authority basically. It's the same line of authority. So why they should be? This is the real mediation. To compare the sources of knowledge. Where do you draw the knowledge from? And then immediately it can be very easily clarified. Maybe you understand the knowledge from this angle. Maybe I understand the knowledge from that angle. Maybe according to the time, place and circumstances, the knowledge can be applied in a certain way. Maybe a part of the knowledge can be applied, the other part cannot be applied now, later. It's called gradual progress, gradual purification. Like when devotees ask Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you are giving us all the instructions, are there more instructions? In the early stage of this movement, Prabhupada said, if I would tell you all the instructions, you would faint. Or you will leave and I will be again a lonely man walking in Manhattan or walking in New York around, with my gummy shoes, and that will be it. Because, so Prabhupada didn't, you find also when different prominent religious preachers appear, like Buddha or Jesus, they don't reveal things, even they could, because they know the capacity of the audience. They are simply not ready for that. Or they will misunderstand the whole thing, turn it upside down and commit offenses. So why to encourage offenses? So a really expert preacher is giving what can be given and preparing, introducing the conditioned soul to the process where it can gradually get purified to receive more. It's actually a science how to do this, which is very, very not easy to learn. It has to be honest to be empowered, like Prabhupada. So here, the Vishnudas are smiling, amazed that these Yamatutas, even they are very simple fellows, they should be at least under strict command. They should be strictly instructed by Yamaraj. They should know enough, like police. Police should know enough to be the judge of things at the spot. Who is actually the criminal or not. Of course, nowadays it cannot be applied because the police doesn't know what to think. But actually, in a classical sense, there was no lawyers in Vedic society. The profession was unknown. It was brahmanas. And Brahmanas were finally, and there were very touchy cases, we know from Krishna book, what can happen when one cow donated to one Brahmana walks to the herd of another cow, back again to its own herd, which can likely happen. Cows are quite aware that the herd they come from, and then it's again donated to another Brahmana, second time, amongst thousands of other cows. So, we know this story of Maharaj Nriga, what kind of trouble he got himself into it, that actually unknowingly he donated the same cow twice to another Brahmana, and then even mysteriously enough, these two Brahmanas start to quarrel over that cow, which Brahmanas normally wouldn't do. My cow? No, this cow was donated to me yesterday by the king. That's my cow. No, today it was donated to me. It's my cow. And then they placed the whole case in front of the king, who couldn't do much about this. He just said, you know what, forget the whole thing, I give you thousands of cows again, Yeah, and just let's forget this. No, we want to have a judgment. This is a sinful activity. To give something to somebody, and so to say, steal it, and give it to somebody else again. No, actually I didn't steal really anything, the cow walks on its own. It's a very, very complicated issue. So there Brahmana comes into the picture. And Brahmana will not only establish the religious rules, as will be ascribed in the next shloka, that it is actually the important thing is about the principles, about the rules. So Vishnu Dutas stand for certain rules. They are the messengers of Yamaraj, and Yamaraj is doing nothing else the whole day. He's like a Supreme Court judge by simply punishing the sinful, souls. Very depressing service actually. Even Yamaraj sometimes, being cursed wants to become Shudra, he welcomed that curse. He was, he couldn't be in his post. Even it was a curse, he thought, well, finally I get some break from this. It's so depressing to sit the whole day here and judge people and send them to hell, and, so better to be some simple Shudra, and he became Vidura, which was far more pleasant existence, because, he was practically a sage in the disguise of, of a Shudra, who wasn't a Shudra after all, who was born in a royal family. But it's a whole connection there. But it's nice sometimes to be cursed. We sometimes think, what? I got cursed. I have to leave my post, my service. But actually it's a break. Krishna just gives you a break. Just come on. Let everybody curse, let everybody have some break. And a devotee, he will use the break, of course, from an increased amount of devotional activities. That is his holiday. He will go, finally. Nobody comes. I don't have to send anybody to hell today. So nice. Because devotees feels like that. So this is, the whole thing is about principle. Yamatudas were supposed to represent the same principle like Vishnutudas. So Vishnutudas were amazed. Hey, we don't have an agreement here, what are you doing here? You are, what kind of law you are representing? There's a man who is chanting the holy name and you're trying to take him. What kind of, don't you know, don't you get it? And of course this whole thing is like a lila, like an example to enhance the glories of the holy name. That's actually what the story illustrates. So, but it also points out how important it is that we stand for a principle. One is expected in Krishna consciousness to stand and represent a principle. And that principle is not anybody's principle personally, it's a principle established by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The whole Bhagavad Gita is spoken to establish the principle of warfare, principle of Kshatriya behavior, principle of what is right and what is wrong. So for these philosophies or dogmas coming up, that there is no right and wrong. We have to see according, freedom of principle. This is what they were demonstrating yesterday, in Copenhagen. The whole Copenhagen was in ecstasy because we demonstrated our obstinacy and our arrogance, and we exhibited our freedom of any principle. They are very upset now with Russia because it doesn't share the same value system. If you have homosexual in Russia, you really don't have a good time. The same application for Moscow city was denied homosexuals will have not any parade here. And the whole world is upset in a fight of the holy war for the homosexuals. It's pathetic. It's racistic. They protest against racistic discrimination, but they act like the best racist. What? You're not homosexual? Well, at least you can support them. If you have that deficiency that you are not a homosexual, at least you should raise your voice for the freedom of the homosexuals. Why should I raise my voice for freedom of homosexuals? The homosexuals are always there, so what? They were there since thousands of years. As a matter of fact, for the please the homosexuals, we say they were the first created beings. Yes, you were the first one in the universe. You read Bhagavatam, it's right away there. Lord Brahma, the first creation was homosexuals. But of course we don't tell them, he was not considered to be in a right state of mind when he did that. And being himself so disgusted with his, with his body which created homosexuals, because Brahma creates from the mind by his consciousness simply. So he gave up that body. As a matter of fact, these fellows wanted to have sex with him, with their own father. So he was so disgusted. It was like when you produce something, it's not as certain that the first product will be perfect. It's like a prototype. And Brahma was so disgusted with this prototype, he was like, "Pugh!" And he gave up even the body which created it. "Pugh!" And then he kind of assumed the right shape of mind, and then the creation really started. But let's give all the credit to homosexuals. They were the first. We can tell them, you were the first being in the universe. We don't tell them the rest.
Take a book.
Take a book and read about, this is about you. You are the first. Second canto, right? The second canto. Take it, that's about you. Bye-bye. I don't want to now go in Bhagavatam class in detail my encounters for 15 years with homosexuals there on the street. Of course, we met quite a few. And I'm not saying, I'm saying there were pious souls among them too. Definitely. Who were populating our Sunday feast in the city of Berlin. But really, Berlin is always like ahead of Kali Yuga. Way ahead. So we were in that pit hole, and preaching there for 3 years, or you got the Kali Yuga preview, every second house, Prabhu house, homosexuals everywhere. I think even the mayor of Berlin was in a certain point homosexual. So, so it was all the time. In the Sunday feast, we had 100 people every Sunday. We were just 2 brahmacharis. And there was 100 guests. Wow, what a Sunday feast. But there was many of these gentlemen, we discovered very soon, who wanted to join us and become brahmachari. Tibhushana Maharaj was going, no, you cannot join us. Why not? I become a member of the Hare Krishna movement. What could be more blissful for a homosexual as to live in a brahmachari ashram? It's pure ecstasy, Some years, no. But you can come, you can give donation, you can participate, you chant Hare Krishna, and there were really some very, I would say, discreet personalities amongst them who did that. And why not? We are not stopping homosexuals to chant Hare Krishna whatsoever. You could even imagine you could have some sangha, some community out there designed for that purpose. Why not? Why not? But please don't go on a street and preach to the young children, what? You are not a homosexual? Something wrong with you. This is the message you are sending out. Publicly on the street. What a preaching. And when Hare Krishna goes out and preaches about the goal of life, they are crazy. Suddenly, who is crazy? The question is still in place. Please, we at Hare Krishnas with their bed sheets dancing on the street, or our well-painted in various rainbow colors naked gentlemen. Who is more crazy? That kind of preaching still we can do. And Prabhupada did. He would not hesitate 1 second to even address the issue. Prabhupada addressed all kinds of things. Crime, intoxication, women liberation, straight out. And of course, not everybody was happy about that. Prabhupada said, no, that's what we are here for. To actually point out a principle of deviation, and to maintain and protect the principles. That's our service. First of all, by example, that's the best. And then, of course, if challenged, then by words. And people will, the sober part of society, will take shelter. If we don't maintain the principles, who is going to be receiving any shelter? People will say, they're like anybody else. Everybody's compromising anything, anytime he wants to. There were sometimes, in Germany, it's a trend now, since quite some time, young people become Muslims. The Christians are totally upset. Oh, what? Who is preaching here? Yes, the Muslims, they do preaching. And what they preach, well, not much, there's no philosophy really, nothing to say, but they live on certain principles. There are certain things you don't do as a Muslim. Finished. And they live in a very solid block of family support. You know, this is something Christians lost a long time ago. So the young people get more like, yeah, well, at least they have some principle. Of course, there is also lots of this puberty revolution, because Muslim puts you nowadays immediately in a category of a terrorist. Well, it's the same good old idea, you know. This is what we wanted to do also in the 60s. To go against the mainstream, you know. Yeah! And what could be more provocative when the son becomes a Muslim? There's also a little bit puberty in it. But there is also an underlying thing that you actually take shelter in principles. Some sort. What to speak of Krishna conscious principles? That's the protection. That there is something which doesn't change. People will more and more look for it in this totally chaotic and bizarre world. They will look for it just for the fact we are the same. And we don't change. And we don't change the principle. People will get inspired. They get more, oh wow, you are doing the same thing your father did, your grandfather did, way back. People will really be more and more inspired by the parampara principle. You don't change one thing. Prabhupada said, if I would change, I would have millions of disciples. But I don't. I'm not going to change anything. So this is actually mentioned here, that the Vishnuvidas were a little bit smiling. You should know the principle. And you don't? What is this? So the Yamatutva, and the nice thing is while they were smiling, that the Yamatutas instinctively, just by visual impact, assumed a humble role, which is actually fitting them. So the situation was exactly set for exchange of knowledge. There is a speaker and there is a listener. The reason why we cannot preach much in Kali Yuga is because there is just speakers, no listeners. Everybody says, they talk into your mouth before you even said one thing. And then the atmosphere is disturbed. You cannot administer knowledge in such a thing. It's like in a school. In a school there is the atmosphere of a speaker and a listener. I just heard from a devotee historian who was a teacher in Stockholm. A good teacher, you know, but she was dismissed from the school. For one single reason. She couldn't establish any authority in a classroom. And I know why. I mean, she's a very small girl, you know, and I can imagine what the students did to her. But this is still, I was amazed that this is still a valid reason out of it. You cannot teach when you cannot establish your authority. And it's a fact, because without that, what do you want to teach? There's nothing happening. When the students can vote out the teacher anytime, and they just bubble into his mouth as soon as he says something, then the lesson is over. It's finished. So this is our biggest challenge, that there is no system. Therefore in India, like example, ISKCON is thriving in India, because there is still the system. There's somebody speaking, oh, who? And I'm listening. And that doesn't mean it stays like this. Prabhupada said, I'm good in speaking because I was good in listening. So when you are good in listening, you become a good speaker. When you are a good speaker, why shouldn't you speak? That's, you know, it's natural. There's these Bhakti days, you know, we join the Hare Krishna movement. Well, preferably we should more listen as to speak. But that doesn't stay like this. Of course not. You see the older devotees, yeah, anyway, the listening should never stop, but there is a big scope of speaking, because you listen. In the beginning, you just reflect your mind, well, maybe you don't. This is what's coming out of that machine, is usually sometimes quite confused. So why should one speak? What was this what you said when you joined? They told you, you keep your mouth shut and your ears open. That was one of the first instructions. And because one does that, guarantee one becomes a good speaker. And guarantee a time will be given to somebody to speak. Of course. We want speakers. Of course. Prabhupada went so far that he said each single one of my disciples must become a guru. He said it in a quite relatively early stage. I think, some took it very seriously. Yes, I'm guru now. They forgot the word become. And Prabhupada said everybody is guru. No, he didn't say that. He said become a guru. He said, you are a guru. In Germany went so far that during Prabhupada still being on this planet, we got another picture on the altar. That was our GBC. So big uproar in ISKCON. What? Prabhupada is still here and he is already a guru? What? He wasn't even guru officially. It's just, Prabhupada was amazing. He was so tolerant, He was absolutely non-envious. He said, just see how much they love him. They put his picture on the altar, even actually it shouldn't be there. And then Prabhupada kind of gently commented, he should wait until I die. Then the picture is okay. So non-envious, even towards a disciple, who seemed to compete with him. That was not actually the idea. The idea was just done by fanatical followers. It's called personal cult. When the followers get fanatical, the atmosphere becomes quite difficult. Difficult to preach.